All right, let's get to the big breaking news coming in from the United States of America. President Donald Trump has now said that he's making a final decision on whether or not to strike a peace deal with Iran. Here's what he said in a long post that he's posted on Truth Social. I will be meeting now in the Situation Room to make a final determination. He has also stressed that Iran must agree never to have nuclear weapons. He said the Hormuz Strait must be immediately open, no tolls for unrestricted shipping traffic in both directions. He's spoken of nuclear dust as well, where he said that nuclear dust will be unearthed by US and will be completely destroyed. He's gone on to say that he will be meeting now in the Situation Room to make a final determination of whether or not a peace deal will happen and what happens next. However, remember, there has been no clarity if Iran is party to all of these. These are claims that have been made by the American President Donald Trump. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, meanwhile, has said that the deal depends on an end to the excessive US demands. So that's where it stands. We have an earlier reaction from Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister of Iran. The US president now claiming that he will be making a final decision on what happens next, on how the deal goes forward. But a very long post where he's made several claims and made a threat as well. And that is that if the naval blockade continues in the Strait of Hormuz, United States forces will be the ones who will attack. More importantly, he's not just talked about the Strait of Hormuz, but he's talked about nuclear dust as well. And there, the crucial bit is that he has said that America will be unearthing the nuclear dust in coordination and in conjunction with Iran. So that is the interesting bit. He's also said that the Hormuz reopening will have to be done without any toll. He's talked about money as well, where he said that no money will be exchanged. No clarity yet on what this money is. There have been several reports speculating a lot from the Iranian side, what they're demanding, how it will go forward. But remember, these are all that are claims that have been made by the American president. We don't have any official reaction to this particular post from the Iranian side. Let me quickly go across to my colleague Susan Teherani. She's joining us live from New York at the moment. Susan, this is a long post, several claims and a threat by Donald Trump. He's talked about nuclear dust. He's talked about the Strait of Hormuz. Particularly in the case of Strait of Hormuz, he said that no toll should be given or taken. And in nuclear dust, interestingly, he said that we will work in coordination and conjunction with Iran. That's a step down from the earlier stance of the United States, where the president was threatening Iran with more attacks.
Where this is going to be headed, but we have to look at the president's post in the wider context of what has happened in the past 24 hours and the reporting that we've gotten. It appears that he's alluding to that so-called memorandum of understanding, which both sides had indicated they're close to agreeing to. It was interesting that President Trump, it's not clear whether this was poorly worded or whether or not Iran had set a condition that America's naval blockade be lifted before they can move forward. But the president said ships caught in the strait due to our amazing and unprecedented naval blockade, which will now be lifted. Now, that's the part where we're not sure whether or not that's going to happen immediately or whether or not he meant once an agreement is reached. Also, in the last 24 hours, it wasn't just news of this memorandum of understanding. It was news that Abbas Araghchi met with Omanis. It was reported that Marco Rubio met with his Pakistani counterpart Ishaq Dar. And it was also, again, reported that Steve Witkoff and Araghchi had sort of come to an agreement. What we don't know is in the last 24 hours was whether or not Iran was on board to make some kind of agreement with the United States. Now, President Trump going in the Situation Room, despite the fact that this meeting was on his schedule since this morning, is very timely. It's going to be very telling on whether or not the United States, first of all, has a green light from the Iranians or not, or whether or not they want to continue some sort of extensive attack. Because these skirmishes that have happened in the last few days, they could have continued, and they were anticipated by a lot of military analysts that they would continue even through the negotiations. But to sort of make this Situation Room meeting a final call, a determining call, is very noteworthy. But again, as you mentioned, we have to wait and see whether or not the Iranians are even going to reply to something like this. You mentioned Abbas Araghchi had replied about an hour ago, but whether Iran is on board or are they going to just push back as they have? Because a lot of the demands in this post are the same demands that the United States has been having for the past few weeks, if not months, and Iran has not budged. So what makes President Trump come out and put this post out once again on a Friday, we'll have to wait and see.
That's right, Susan. We will have to wait and see how this moves forward and what really happens and whether a final decision, at least from the American side, is made after that meeting. I'll leave it there. Thanks very much, Susan, for tracking this meeting for us. We'll keep coming back to you for the latest from America.